What's poppin', people? It's your boy Eric Terrell back with another Magic the Gathering video, and today I have a Pioneer deck tech for you guys in paper. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and you can have more just Magic content on this channel if you guys do that. So go ahead, do that. Today we have a Hardened Scales deck tech. It's based around this card, Hardened Scales. Basically, if you put a counter on a creature, you get another counter. And so they stack, so the more Hardened Scales you have, or Hardened Scales effects you have, the more counters you get. Each one adds an additional counter. So basically I wanted to go over the types in the deck. There are 22 lands. It's green and white. There's 27 creatures, 4 enchantments, 2 sorceries, 1 artifact, besides 4 artifact creatures. I counted that with the creatures, and 4 instants. And we have an extremely low curve. There are 15 cards at the 1 mana slot, 19 cards at the 2 mana slot, and 4 X spells, which is the Stonecoil Serpent you'll learn about. And there's also a special inclusion, Luris of the Dream Den. Yep, you can't play a format without a companion these days, and it's a key component to the deck, and we'll get into that later. So, like I said, a key card to the deck is Hardened Scales, but also Conclave Mentor. This deck used to be Golgari, green and black, but Conclave Mentor was released in Core Set 2021, and it was a perfect addition to the deck. So it's basically copies 5 through 8 of Hardened Scales, but it's a creature for 2 mana. It's a 2/2, and it has the Hardened Scales text, exactly the same thing, but also when it dies you gain life equal to its power, which can be a lot of life, and you can get it back with Luris later. So that is a game plan. The deck doesn't need these to be successful, but these cards, and especially in multiples, can really supercharge the deck and put it over the top. So the deck plays only 1 and 2 drops due to Luris being the companion, and it's such a key part of the deck because it gives us so much resilience. So I guess we can talk about that right now. So it's 1 and 2 Orzhov hybrid for a 3/2. It has lifelink, and the companion restriction is that the permanents in your deck all have to cost 2 or less. And during each of your turns, you can cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. So it works out pretty good. It's pretty resilient. Makes the deck resilient to removal, like Fatal Push. The entire deck dies to Fatal Push. But this can get back your stuff, and it just helps put the deck over the edge, really. So the game plan of the deck really is to stick a Hardened Scales turn 1 or a Conclave Mentor turn 2. And you want to play 1-drops and just pump them up in various ways. So we'll start with the 1-drops. The main 1-drops in the deck are Servant of the Scale and Experiment 1. Servant of the Scale comes in with a counter, and when it dies, you move all the counters from it to whatever else you want. And Experiment 1 just grows throughout the game when it has evolves. So whenever a bigger creature comes in, with its either power or toughness being bigger, you get a counter. So with Hardened Scales, you'll often get multiple counters, and you can also remove 2 counters to regenerate it. So regeneration makes its comeback in Pioneer, which is awesome. So these guys are really good to have. I'm playing these over Pelt Collector just because I think Pelt Collector often will have a hard time growing, in my experience. And sorry if I don't have, or all my cards aren't matching, like with the Stonecoil Serpent. because it's just kind of the nature of the collectible card game. And this is a pre-release promo, and this is just a borderless foil version. And I also have 2 regulars. But Stone Coil is so key to the deck just because it scales with the game, and it will often be even bigger than what you pay for. Because if you have a Hardened Scales out, if you pay 1 mana, it's going to be a 2/2 if you have a Hardened Scales. So it also has Reach, which everybody forgets about. Protection from Multicolored, which can be actually a drawback because we have Dramoka's Command in the deck. Spoilers. But still, it's just a very solid creature. We did lose Walking Ballista for the sins of Heliod, and that was a combo in the deck with Heliod, Walking Ballista, infinite damage. But it was, I guess, a toxic combo, and Wizards wants to limit the combos, I guess, in Pioneer. So, yeah, had to cut that, unfortunately. That's back when the deck was Golgari because of Winding Constrictor. But just black doesn't really add anything to the game plan, just Snake. But we replaced that with Conclave Mentor, and the deck really wants to be Selesnya anyway, so it kind of works out. Another important piece to the deck is this one, Luminarch Aspirant. It's a 2-mana 1/1. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, which often turns into 2, 3, or even 4 counters at a time, which just is insane value for just a 2-mana card. Just a really good addition to the deck, and you always want to see this every game. So there's 4 of them. Every card I talked about so far, it's been a 4 of. Conclave Mentor, Hardened Scales, and the rest. Another card in the deck is Huatli's Raptor. 2-mana 2/3, Vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, you proliferate. Obviously, proliferate has a lot of synergy with our deck, and you can get this back with Lurrus and just out of nowhere grow your entire team and really overrun them. Really good with Lurrus. We're hoping this dies and can bring it back with Lurrus, but if it's just a 1-shot, decent creature. Plus has Vigilance, so it can rumble. It's a pretty big body for 2 mana. So it's just a solid creature. It's kind of the second worst card in the deck, but still a very solid include. Let's see. And the last creature I want to talk about is Avatar of the Resolute. It's 2 green for a 3/2 Avatar. Has Reach and Trample, and Avatar of the Resolute enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter already on it. So this can often be a 2-mana like 7/6 or 9/8, huge. For 2 mana, it's just really insane. So it just gets really big. You want to play this last. This is usually like the last card out of my hand, or one of the last few cards out of my hand. Just really over the top, really efficiently costed. Even if it's naked, it's still a 2-mana 3/2 Reach Trample, which is good. So that's a good card in the deck. Another important card is the Ozolith. It's only 1 of. Avatar of the Resolute is a 4 of. The Ozolith is a 1 of, just because it's legendary, and having multiples of these really hurts. It's not that important to the deck, but it is nice to have once in a while. So basically, if a creature dies, you put all of its counters onto the Ozolith, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can move all the counters on it to another creature. And whenever the creatures are put on a creature, or whenever the counters are put on a creature from the Ozolith, you still get the Hardened Scales bonus, which is pretty sweet. You don't get them when they go on the Ozolith, because it's just whenever a creature gets a counter, but still, it's a solid effect to have. It's just a 1 of, though. And a 2 of in the deck is Gird for Battle. This is probably the worst card in the deck, so it's only a 2 of, but it gives a 1/1 counter to up to 2 creatures. So this can easily add like 6, 8 power to the board. Can be ridiculous. For just 1 mana, it's just a really solid include. Yeah, but it is kind of the worst card because you really need creatures out to function. This deck is very creature focused, and there's a lot of creatures, so yeah, but this is an important piece as well. But it's only 2 of, and a 4 of in the deck is a very important card in the deck, Dromoka's Command. This is kind of our only interaction in the main deck, but this card is, if you don't remember it, is a green and a white for an instant. Choose 2, prevent all damage, target instant or sorcery spell would deal this turn, target player sacks an enchantment, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, and target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. This is almost always a blowout. It's an instant fight effect, adds counters, which can, within the deck, keep saying it, but can add multiple counters. The second enchantment can come up, and in the Pro Tour, they actually use the first ability, preventing an instant sorcery spell, to win the game, or prevent themselves from dying and then eventually winning the game. That's a pretty cool moment I remember with this card back in Khan's Standard. Yeah, so there's also 22 lands in the deck, 9 basics. There's also a not matching, oops, sorry, nudge the camera. There's also Branchloft Pathway. Sorry, these don't match, and it's pretty ugly, if you ask me. But on the back is the white land. It's a modal double face card from Zendikar. Should double sleeve these. I need sleeves for this deck, really, actually. These are kind of stand-in ones. These are good to have. I also have 4 Temple Gardens, which these are all matching from Guilds of Ravnica, the Shockland, in our colors. And we also have 4 Fortified Village, probably the worst dual land in the deck, because there's only like, 13 chances at having a untapped land in our hand. Good early, not as good late, but we're more of an aggro deck anyway, so it's kind of usually works out. And last land is one of Sunpetal Grove. I would have more of these, but just the limitations of being in the times we are now, it's hard to get these. Well, I mean, I could get them online, but I mean, it's like $5 each, and I just haven't gotten on them yet. I thought I had them hidden somewhere, but so these would go up to 4 of. I would take out probably 2 plains and 1 fortified village to round out the playset of the Sunpetal Grove. But yeah, and now we can move on to the sideboard. The first sideboard card I want to talk about is Archon of Emeria. Again, these don't match, sorry if that bugs you. Basically, this card says, it's hard to see. Basically, rule of law, each player can't play more than 1 spell, and non-basic lands our opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. And it's a 2/3 flyer for 3. So after sideboard, we would take out Lurrus as the companion, just against certain matchups, and we will be able to play 3 drops and above. Just depends on the matchup, really. And the next card I want to talk about is Scavenging Ooze. It's just good graveyard hate, plus it cares about counters and incidentally gains you life. So just an all-around solid card. Also costs 2, so we could do the Lurrus plan with it. The next card I want to talk about is Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. This is a staple of Hardened Scales. The only reason we're not playing it main deck is because it costs 3 and not 2. But it comes down and, pumps your entire team with counters, with multiple counters usually. I usually just do that. I'd -2, +1, -2. And just, add a ton of counters. You don't really need her any more than that. I don't think I've ever gone for the ultimate, but that's certainly a possibility if that's what it comes to. So 3 copies of that. Sorry, 2 Archons, 2 Scavenging Ooze, and 3 Nissas. Oops, skipped one. One of the other ones I want to talk about is Yasharn Implacable Earth. Costs 4 mana for a 4/4. It's a legend. It ramps you, which we don't care about, but the part we care about is that players can't pay life or sack non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. So this stops the Jund Sack decks and the Cat Oven decks and all the annoying sacrifice stuff that people do. So again, we can't play Lurrus, but I'm going to stop saying that with all these. The next one is Voracious Hydra. Basically, if we need some more removal / bigger, badder creatures, this interacts really well with Hardened Scales because it adds counters both before and after doubling. So if you pay, let's say, 3 mana for this, comes down, gets 2 counters. Let's say you have a Hardened Scales out, comes down, gets 2 counters. You double it to 4, and then you get another one. So for 3 mana, you get 5 1/1 counters. So it's a 5/6, which I mean, that's so good. Can lead to some blowouts. It also can fight stuff, which is always insane. Yeah, always a good card. So it's not main deck because it doesn't interact very well with Lurrus. You could play it, but it just stinks to bring back with Lurrus. So I put it in the sideboard. And the last sideboard card is Inscription of Abundance. I'd probably actually go up to 3 if I had a third one. This is, if you count, this is actually 13 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13. Plus 1 Lurrus and 1 more sideboard card I would leave for, what's that card called? It's Light of something. It's like a Ikoria 1-drop with 3 modes. Gain 4 life, get a counter, or destroy an enchantment, I believe. So kind of a 1 mana Dromoka's Command, if you want to look at it like that. It's also a sorcery, but that is an option. But I have Inscription of Abundance here, kind of in its place. But you can kick this, you get counters, you can gain life, or you can have something fight. And if you can do all 3, you're really kicking some butt. So that's another option. Let's see. Another thing I wanted to talk about was why it's green-white and not Abzan, which would let us play the Snake, Winding Constrictor. And just because Conclave Mentor kind of took that spot, and it's just unnecessary and puts strain on the mana base, which is just really unnecessary. And Dromoka's Command is just so good, and the consistency of 2 colors versus 3 is huge, especially in Pioneer, where monocolored decks are pretty much considered the staples of the format. Lurrus, because we can add consistency to the deck against removal, against like Fatal Push specifically. That can be a very key card. And yeah, so this is my Hardened Scales deck. I haven't really tested it much, but it is a ton of fun. I love Hardened Scales. I used to have a standard deck based around it, and it's just such a fun card to build around. I love that it's just 1 green mana, so easy to play. Just one of my favorite build arounds of all time. And thanks for watching, everybody. This has been a Pioneer Deck Tech. Let me know in the comments if you guys want more of these, like paper deck techs. I have a bunch of Commander decks I can talk about. And yeah, this is so much fun to film. I hope you guys liked it. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.